Hello, this is Scottish Independence Podcast number 125, and this time I spoke to the person that's known as Phantom Power. And this is the person that's been producing some of the best independent documentaries around the Scottish political scene, about some of the characters, about some of the things that went on around the independence referendum, and many of the things that have been happening since. The documentaries are always very good to watch, so I took the opportunity to have a word with the man that makes them and see what inspired him to do it. And as ever, I asked him why he got involved on the Yes side. So, we'll go to the conversation. I hope you enjoy it. How's it going?
I'm good, Michael. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad. I've spent this morning watching one of the most bizarre videos I've ever seen, but I'll maybe... No, it was in Colombia.
All right.
And a man came in to stab a... He came into the church with a huge knife in order to stab a Pentecostal preacher, and then was overcome by the power of God. Now, if you've ever seen a video that was the most obviously set up piece of nonsense in the world, this was it. I had to watch it about 5 times just to see how bad it was.
Right, it's not one of mine, is it?
Oh, no. And how about you? What have you been up to?
Nothing much, just pretty busy. I'm working on a series just now called Become the Media, which I'm keen to promote. It's really about different forms of producing content and sort of keeping the independence discussion going.
Well, that's been the fantastic thing about your films, and we'll get there, but what the listeners really want to hear first is, have you been cleaning for the Queen?
Have I been cleaning for the Queen? I'm not on board with that at all. I just thought it was a complete piss take, really. I just sort of brushed over it.
Good pun. As you mentioned, you've been working on these films, but it's not a new thing. You've been doing it for some time, and Bella Caledonia's covered them, and they've been seen in other places, and it seems like you've been, for a number of years now, you've been documenting the growth and some of the more important things in this movement. And what was it that inspired you to start it?
Yeah, the inspiration really came from the BBC. I've been following the debate for a while, and I think I just got tired of really shouting at the radio and shouting at the TV, and I thought, what can I do here? How can I contribute to this debate? This was back in, early 2014. So I decided, to pick up the camera and go out and just see what was going on here. So I did a bit of work with National Collective. I did their video for their crowdfunder, and I actually did the live concert that you use your theme tune for as well. Early days of a Better Nation, the Matt Seattle and Laurie Watson piece. So I'll need to invoice you for that, Michael.
All right. Well, no, I have their specific permission.
Very good. I'm not joking. Yeah, so, I heard about the BBC protests, and I thought, I'll go along and see what's going on here. Is this a bunch of Zoomers, or, what exactly is this about? Because I'd heard about the protests before, and so I went along to Pacific Quay and really just spoke to people, and what kind of surprised me was, these weren't the mad nationalist Zoomers that they were made out to be. They were really articulate people who were just deeply disappointed with the coverage the BBC were doing in the referendum. So, I got really interested in that, and I covered another one, and it just seemed to, the protests themselves seemed to grow. There was a lot of anecdotal evidence, and I thought, this is great, but it's becoming a bit of a rant. People are, just sounding off about this. What is the real evidence? So I went on to do The Bigger the Lie with Professor John Robertson.
Yeah, and we've had him on a number of times as well. It's always a good interview.
Yeah, he's a fascinating guy, and I really wanted to back up what these people were saying with some solid research, and I discovered Professor Robertson's work and did that video, and it went a bit wild. That one, I think it's now on about 110,000 views for that one. That's been really my biggest viewed piece of work, and it really just puts the evidence for the bias that's been going on a kind of solid footing there. And I think the thing to remember about Professor John Robertson is that the BBC did try to get the guy removed from his post. They'd sent him a letter as well, which I just thought was pretty outrageous. by that time, I was really in too deep and I couldn't get out, and I was caught up in the whole, madness of it,
And
the
then,
whole
and for,
crazy madness.
and from then you started doing more kind of, well, there was the Writing of Scotland one, Press Bias, which was a similar theme.
Yeah, I liked it. I think the thing with media bias is that it's good to. I don't want to just go out there and get opinions. I think you've got to back it up with some piece of research, and that's Dr. David Patrick. I discovered his work, and we did that film with him, and it was looking at the press bias and independence debate. It wasn't. I mean, all press are naturally biased. They don't have any responsibility to be balanced or objective. They often convey the views of their owners and stuff like that. But it was just the sheer scale of it. There was no daily paper. I know people say there was the Sunday Herald, but there was no daily paper that was pro independence. They were either on the fence or negative, and that I just thought that was incredible for a Western democracy to have that kind of level of skewed view on the whole debate. Was pretty incredible. So yeah, and he did a great job on that. Dr. David Patrick, he's back in South Africa just now, I think. Yeah. So.
But then another thing that you've done since the referendum, which I've noticed, is that you've worked on doing various profiles of the people in the alternative media, and that's been wonderful to watch. We've learned about, in the Gallery of Rogues, there's the Art of Satire, so there's people like Greg Moodie, and then there's been profiles of Chris Cairns and Stuart Bremner, and you've worked on a lot of profiles. What was the reason for giving people the chance to see these people apart from just their work?
Yeah, I think it was really important to support the voices in the independence movement. You've got some amazing work going on, and the filming of those people was really just to raise their profile. And also, I mean, I'm quite interested in the way other people work in terms of, Greg, how he produces his work, the thinking behind it, and also people like Stuart Bremner and Chris Cairns. There's a process there which is visually it's quite interesting to document, and the films have a natural structure. They create a piece of work, and then there's also the commentary and the ideas that go into it. It's an interesting way to cover the debate, and rather than just pushing a message all the time, I think the creative aspect is very interesting to me to cover. What I would like to do is just support these voices.
That sounds quite similar to what the idea behind these podcasts was in the beginning, in that basic idea I had was a few years before the referendum, but we knew it was coming, was that, I knew that there would be no independent supporters of any stripe, of SNP or the Socialists or whoever. I knew there would be no way for them to get on the television or the radio without being shouted down by three unionists. And I thought, right, we'll just start this little radio show which will give people the chance to come on and say their bit without getting shouted down. That was basically the idea, and I think that's quite similar to what you're trying to do in the video sense. But obviously, what I was going to get to is that your content seems a lot more professional than ours does.
I think the ideas are really similar, and I think it is kind of amazing to me that Scotland 2016 or any of these shows, I mean, you very rarely see figures from the independence movement there. When was the last time Derek Bateman was on TV? When was the last time, why isn't the wee Ginger Doug on some of these shows? I don't understand it, and this seems to be the only avenue there is for these people to get their profile raised and spread the word.
Do you think that's one of the difficulties we have? Because everyone says, social media, social media, social media. But in a certain way, the demographic of social media is young. It's not as clear cut as it once was. A lot of older ages are starting to use it. But basically, the vote for the union was heavily in favour of older people who consume mainstream media much more than social media. So, I mean, do you think at the same time it's a strength and a weakness in that this is the only way we can sort of get to people?
I think it's a challenge to to social media and the way we're doing things. We need to reach those audiences. I don't know how we do it. I've thought about it myself, how do you reach the senior citizens? It's a very, very difficult thing to do. That's maybe one of the aims of the Become the Media series I'm doing. Hopefully I can get people to, engage others in writing or podcasting, a relative or another member of their family. I don't think it's just about pushing the independence view all the time. It could be someone from a unionist background, or it could be someone with a unionist voice. It doesn't have to be particularly about politics. It could be about football or, issues senior citizens are facing. I think I think it's pretty essential we reach that market. I'm still working on it. I'd love to hear anybody's ideas, actually. So this is a call out for a future video there.
Yeah. If anyone's got any ideas, they could drop us a line. But so to get back to that idea, I mean, your videos are very, very professionally done. I mean, it looks like something that could go onto TV. Has no one sort of contacted you to say, could we broadcast this? Apart from, say, Bella Caledonia, they're always on there. But, I mean, have you never had any kind of contacts about them?
I've never tried, really. This whole, I suppose this goes back to, the situation we're in with the BBC and commissioning in this country. It's pretty shocking. I was actually going to play a wee game with you, Michael, about the amount of production that actually goes on in Scotland. Ask you some three quick questions.
Okay, go for it.
So out of BBC Network production for entertainment, right? So BBC Network produces 1,100 hours of entertainment, okay? Entertainment programming. And Scotland's share should be 96 hours. Can you guess what the actual hours Scotland's share is?
I think I've seen statistics about some of this, isn't it something like 20, 15, something ridiculous like that?
No, it's two hours.
Whoa.
We produce. Yeah, so for music and arts, out of 1,800 hours, Scotland produces 29 hours. And in terms of comedy, BBC Network produces 1,700 hours, and we get 9 hours. So those kind of facts speak for themselves. And there's very little commissioning, very little production going on here. I think the most recent documentary I saw, it was Lady Landowners on BBC Scotland. So
marvellous. Nice and inclusive.
Yeah, I mean, and they wonder where the complaints that the BBC doesn't reflect lives in Scotland comes from. But yeah, I mean, it's just shocking, really.
So does this mean you're in favour of a Scottish Six? Because that would certainly pull more production back into Scotland.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about a Scottish Six is people forget that reporting Scotland, it really began in the late 1960s. It's been the same format for about 50 years. It's been due an update for a long, long time. And I see, the Scottish Six really is the last chance for the BBC in Scotland, particularly the news, to mend the bridges that were kind of broken in the referendum. But the whole commission and production needs looked at. It needs to be massively increased. And BBC Scotland needs to be completely rebooted from the top down.
Isn't that the fear that some people have about the Scottish Six? I'm not convinced about it, but people think that, if they do it and then they make an arse of it, then it would make things worse rather than better.
Yeah, I think that's true. The three models they've outlined are just, they're not too inspiring. And on the National this week, which was really, I found it really fascinating, they had Stuart Cosgrove producing an alternative vision of what the Scottish Six would be. I'm just hoping they take note of that, because there is no excuse for the sort of lame, parochial, even the production values aren't that great. Things tend to be out of focus and overexposed. I mean, I notice these things, but it's just really, really poor, And even the Green Party conference, I'm not a Green Party member and I don't really support them, but even the Green Party conference at the weekend, there was no coverage of it because the BBC only have one live camera at the weekend, for the whole of Scotland.
Is that right?
Yeah, apparently that's true. So I mean, it's just kind of appalling, just even on that level. It's just not enough, and I have my doubts about the Scottish Six, but I'm not. I really would love to see it be a success.
Do you think the improvement could come is that even if they do it, even if they make an arse of it, then it's not like we'd be asking to go back to the wonderful London service, because the London one's